Hello and welcome to another video. Today we're going to talk about some commodity companies that I think have some upside potential due to the fact that from October till now they've had a massive correction. Even though they did rally tremendously between like September and October. But I still think they have some upside potential, which is why I'm mentioning them. So let's go right into it. And the first one will be Uranium Energy Corp, which is a company we mentioned in May. But bear in mind it has rallied tremendously from that point. I think it was like $5 when we mentioned it, and now it's like 11. But the reason why I mentioned it, it went from $17 to now like 11, or like it's one of the largest uranium producing companies in North America, and it has a tremendous resource. Listen to this: 230 million pounds of uranium in measured and indicated, and 100 million pounds in inferred. And this company would, and it also has $321 million in cash, no debt, and it is producing now, where in 2025 they apparently have produced 130,000 pounds of uranium. Apparently it was $36 per pound, for targeting an ISR mine startup by December 2025. The reason why it also is piquing my interest, it is that it would be the only vertically integrated US company where they would be mining uranium, processing it, and refining it and converting it into like fuel, apparently. Mine it, refine it, and apparently enrich it in the future to provide for the utility, smaller modular reactors and larger reactors in the future. Apparently the projected production gap, or like compared to like the supply and the demand, apparently by there would be like an enormous, just with the base case, there would be like a supply deficit. And that's like demand called to triple uranium capacity by 2050. So now let's go over to the next one. Energy Fuels. It has the only conventional uranium mill in the United States. It has the largest uranium processing facility, fully licensed and permitted, and it has the capacity to apparently produce million pounds of uranium. It also has the only facility in the United States able to process monazite, where apparently they have 70 million pounds of uranium throughout their different projects in the United States. A rare earth project in Madagascar, Brazil, and Australia. The project in Australia being the Donald project, which apparently would be starting production somewhere in like 2027, 2028, where they would first produce like, I think 7,000 tons first year apparently. And the fact that they currently, as of now, had 300,000 pounds of uranium contracted to deliver in 2025, and between 600 and 900,000 pounds uranium to be delivered to utilities or delivered to customers in 2026, which is very interesting. It's growing and growing, which is fantastic. And apparently in August 2025 they produced 1 kilo of DY or dysprosium, and 2 months later they produced 15 kilos of fusium oxide, and in November they produced terbium or TB. And apparently they would evaluate commercial production of dysprosium and terbium as early as Q4 2026, where they would regularly produce it rather than just testing it. Phase 2, the rare earth expansion, would increase capacity from 10,000 tons of monazite to 60,000 tons per year, which is very impressive. That is, I think, in 2027, 2028, if everything goes according to plan. So where they're producing like 10,000 now, and then in 2-3 years they will produce 60,000. Like the material that contains rare earth, like monazite, contains a lot of rare earths. And the fact that they are also not only rare earths and uranium, they also are producing or are wanting to produce radium or medical isotopes, which would be showing great promise apparently for treating cancers. So I think that it seems very interesting. It went from like $30 almost to now like $13. It seems like it posed as an opportunity. Now let's go over to the next one. Silver 47 exploration. Why do I mention this? I've mentioned it several times. Why? Because it has barely moved this year. It has a tremendous resource, and this is why it piqued my interest. China, which is a major silver producing nation, where they apparently produce between 10 and 13% of all the silver. Listen to this. In 2027, or 2026 I mean, the Chinese government, or the Chinese Ministry of Commerce, have issued new rules governing the export of tungsten, antimony, and silver exports for 2026 till 2027, which means that there could be a little supply crunch in 2026-2027 period of silver and tungsten and antimony, which means there could be opportunities for those people interested in those materials, because China is a major producer of those. But listen, China's I think the second largest silver producer, and they would apparently risk a little bit, and it's already in a deficit with silver, so that could be an opportunity. And why Silver 47? This company has, which is a US exclusive, they have in Nevada, New Mexico, and Alaska, only in the United States. The company has 10 million ounces of silver equivalent in indicated at 333 grams per ton. Very nice number. And it also has 236 million ounces of silver equivalent in inferred at 334 grams, which is fantastic. And it, apparently has an EV to ounce metric of 0.25 cents to the ounce in silver equivalent, apparently. And the company seems to be very cheap compared to similar companies such as BlackRock Silver, Argenta Silver, Ultra Silver. Out of the silver companies, I really like Silver 47 Exploration, BlackRock Silver, and First Majestic Silver. Those Those are the ones I like. Obviously, one silver company that doesn't sound like a silver company, which is Comstock Inc., which apparently, since they will be recycling 3.2 million solar panels per year, and since there's 20 grams of silver per panel, that would be like 2 million ounces of silver facility. And they apparently by 2 years they would have facilities. Means they could by 2028 produce 6 million ounces of silver, which is very interesting. Now let's go over to the next one on the list. After the correction between October and November, it seems to be that NuScale and CAMECO seem a little bit more promising right now for the. And why would CAMECO be of interest? It has a measured and indicated resource. They have 400 million pounds of uranium, according to the end of 2024, and they have 450 million pounds of uranium in reserve. And the fact that the company is also in basically most of, if not all of the uranium sector, or like both in producing it, but also enriching it and so forth. And the fact that they also have a huge position in Westinghouse, where almost half of all nuclear reactors in operation on the planet uses Westinghouse's technology. And the fact that they also has the world's largest uranium refinery facility that processes uranium into high purity, where they are projecting that China is on track to double its current nuclear capacity by 2040, 15 years from now. And now let's go over to NuScale though, it has had an enormous correction. It's like insane. But it's the only SMR technology approved by the US Nuclear Regulatory Commission, and it is near-term deployable, where apparently 12 modules are in production. I think it was in the beginning of 2030s, they would apparently be getting up and running. Everything goes according to plan. It has had an enormous correction though, so bear in mind it could be a little bit, it's a lot more risky than CAMECO, just having that said. But it's more like smaller, rather than like larger, so apparently it would be more like suitable for like data centers and so forth. So now let's go over to the next one. So now a company that we have talked about a couple of times, but because it's in the battery recycling business, and the fact that according to this, I had a little conversation with the Google AI, and apparently with the US economy, the total battery related economy or economic account of like the economy would be like 21% of all US economic output would be from related to batteries, or like needing batteries, so forth. And also with the increasing need of EVs, and like batteries are being used everywhere and increasingly needed to operate society and operate tools, either it's a phone, it's a computer, TV, car, and you name it. Even like refrigerators, like everything has batteries or like needing electricity. And the fact that this company is a US-based company which will be recycling batteries and then recycling the materials and metals and so forth. And it has a tremendous, it is currently producing, and it is still growing tremendously. And the fact that they had a massive correction, because one of the reasons was because one of the grants from the government was axed, which was a lithium. It was $54 million. The grant for the other, or like for the government where the government is assisting them in making a new facility, I think they were handed $144 million in a grant from the US government, which is still valid as of now, making this video, 20th of November. But they will be recycling lithium-ion batteries, and they would also apparently in the future also mine it with the claim of like lithium claystone. And the reason why it should also be interesting is that they have partnership with BASF, which is one of the largest companies on the planet, especially from Germany, where they would be assisting them in developing a closed loop solution for like lithium-ion batteries in the North American market. And apparently they would, and the reason why it is also interesting, it needs to be more independent with the resources, and the fact that resource use is just increasing and increasing every single year. You need to mine the materials, but you also need to keep it in your system rather than just needing to ship it out to China, process it and recycling. Yes, you need to keep it in your country to have your country become strong and not having to rely on adversaries to do the tasks that are required to maintain your country, which is a bit foolish, to be honest. If you're required on people and institutions that really don't like you to keep your society afloat, wouldn't be very stable, you'd say. And apparently the company in 6th of November, they received an EPA circular approval from the government where they were supposed to recycle damaged batteries, and apparently that would be 100,000 batteries in one cleanup, which is very impressive. And apparently they would get $30 million from the recycled product at the current market price. Very interesting. So the government really likes them, and just because one of the grants were apparently the government wasn't really happy with how it was progressing, so they were just axing it. And to be honest, interested in the recycling business, that's the most important thing compared to mining it, because you have Lithium Americas, which is one of the largest lithium mines, or like to be one of the largest mines on the planet, which is in the United States. So but I think the American Battery Technologies mine would apparently have a 40-year mine life and a 7-year payback time, if I'm remembering it correctly. Oh, here it is. It would have a 45-year mine life, a total capex of $2 billion, average cost of LHM at $4,300, and would have apparently an net present value 10% after tax $1.7 billion. And they also have fast 41 track permits using permitting, and it has one of the largest lithium resources in the United States. And it seems very interesting. This is a very promising company, and they would really ramp up production in 2027, 2028 when they would get the other facility ready if everything goes according to plan. Well, now they are ramping up one facility they have where they are would be able to produce 20,000 metric tons, and with this new facility they would produce 100,000 tons extra. And I think I remember correctly when I googled it, the current price, apparently with them producing 100,000 tons of like the recycled materials and so forth, apparently, allegedly, I might be wrong, but they could perhaps then by 2028, 2029 produce or like have a revenue of like between 700 and 800 million dollars, which is enormous increase from what it's now, which could be very interesting. Bear in mind, that is maybe, perhaps,